Hey there. Okay, in my last video, I talked about how we get hooked into an identity at work. And the big truth is that you're not your job, you're not your title, and you're not the number of hours you work, the revenue you generate, or the Slack messages you respond to in under 60 seconds either. But there were a lot of other things I left out in that last video on this topic, and I want to get to it in this video. So let's do it. Somewhere along the way, many leaders, myself included, started believing that we were our work. We get so identified with it that it seems like we don't want to do or can't do much of anything else but think about work and then work. And that belief becomes a trap, a very professional-looking, KPI-measured trap. In the Buddhist tradition, there's a core idea that the self, the identity, is not fixed. It's a flowing process, not a static object. But in the corporate world, we treat our identities like they're carved in stone. And the more we cling to that, the titles and all the trappings that come with it, the more rigid we become. And guess what doesn't thrive in rigidity? Now, let's talk about the sneaky way work co-ops your identity. I know, as crazy as that sounds. Ever notice how the first question at a networking event or anytime you meet a new person is, so, what do you do? Not, what lights you up? Or what kind of person are you becoming? Or what interests you most right now? Because in our world, doing has replaced being. And that's a spiritual identity theft we all consented to, unless we choose differently right now. This isn't just a woo-woo idea either. It's psychology. Marty Seligman, founder of positive psychology, developed the PERMA model, that's P-E-R-M-A, that describes 5 areas of life that contribute to a positive existence. The model states that we must experience 5 things in our life. Those things are pleasure, engagement, relationships, positive ones, meaning, and accomplishment. Work might check some of those boxes, but not all. And even if it could, it likely wouldn't forever because jobs and careers, they come and go, just like our identities and just like everything else. Nothing is permanent. If your entire PERMA stack is built on your job, you're one reorg away from an existential crisis. Let's delve deeper into how work doesn't just shape our identity, it can also hijack our brain's reward system too. Yikes. Research shows that work addiction, or workaholism, is a behavioral addiction characterized by a compulsion to work excessively, often at the expense of health and relationships. This is linked to the brain's dopamine system, the same one involved in substance addiction. Each achievement at work triggers dopamine reinforcing behavior in the same way as gambling or drug use or alcohol use does. And it doesn't stop at dopamine either. Check this out. Let's talk about adrenaline. That buzz you feel racing to meet a deadline or finish a project, or the thrill of closing a big deal at 10 p.m. on a Friday that you think feels like being alive? That's your sympathetic nervous system flooding you with adrenaline and cortisol. Short bursts, totally normal. But chronic stress at work can create a dependency on this adrenaline rush. You start to mistake the stress-fueled urgency for aliveness. And then one day it strikes you that you don't feel that alive after all. In fact, studies from the American Institute of Stress show that workplace stress is one of the primary sources of chronic stress in adults. And over time, this constant arousal affects your cardiovascular health, immune function, and cognitive clarity. In other words, the thing that was making you feel on is also burning you out. So, if you find yourself chasing crisis after crisis, putting out fire after fire, and feeling like this is really keeping you pumped up and alive, get ready because the come down, it's coming. You may have been running alongside a socially sanctioned high this whole time. Okay, but then what do? Let me say it out loud for the people in the back. Leaders need hobbies. You need something that's not monetized, not optimized, not featured on LinkedIn. You might need to bake bread every day. You need to take up paddleboarding or poetry or bird watching. Basically, you need to lose track of time doing something you love just because you love it. And that doesn't come with a quarterly performance review or one more KPI to track. Because when you don't, you become brittle. You lose flexibility. You stop being a human being and become a human resume. And when the job shifts or disappears altogether, you're left asking, who am I without this? We need to be reminded from time to time that our identity is a lot like a cloud, always changing, sometimes fluffy, sometimes dark, always moving. That's not a flaw, it's freedom. You don't need to be someone. You just need to be. And when you stop clinging to that fixed self, the job title, the reputation, the expectations, you make space to live from something deeper. You make space to be fully alive, like really alive. So maybe it's time to stop managing your identity like it's a brand asset. Take off the badge. Log off the professional version of you. Go paint something terribly. Write something strange. Wander. Because the less you cling to the job title, the more you'll uncover the whole human who's been there all along. Drop me a line in the comments if this hits home for you and how you find your freedom from the tyranny of that swipe card outside of work. I'd love to hear it. And don't forget, you can also hit subscribe to get more great stuff on how to thrive in the 9 to 5 and beyond. Happy thriving.